my kiddo Caleb and I, we stayed at the legendary Brown Hotel, actually the Brown Palace, in Denver. We were there Thursday and spent the night until Friday. Caleb missed his 8th grade continuation because of COVID. So we went there to celebrate in the midst of this beautiful hotel. And we also went ghost hunting. So we took pictures of him throughout this hotel. But maybe the best thing or the most important thing we did was ghost hunting, because the Brown Palace is haunted, in case you didn't know that. Friday morning we sat in the exquisite lobby of the hotel and we had breakfast there. We knew that Governor Polis had made an executive order mandating masks, but while we sat there, all of our cell phones throughout the lobby went off with an alert letting us know that it indeed happened, was coming into fruition there on that Friday morning. Caleb and I read it on our phones, and then we went on eating. Shortly thereafter, there was a man behind me who started talking very loudly to this woman at the table next to him. He was saying that he wasn't opposed to wearing masks, but he didn't want the government, he didn't think that the government should tell us to wear them. He said that, if it makes you feel safer to wear one, then yes, you should wear one, and that's how you should judge if you should wear one or not. I found myself feeling frustrated and even a little angry that the guy was missing the point, really the whole point. You don't wear the mask for yourself. You wear the mask for others. The mask doesn't necessarily protect yourself from getting sick. The mask is there to prevent your spittle, kind of gross, your germs, your cough from getting out to other people. So you wear the mask for others, not really for yourself. This is a really hard concept for us in the United States to grasp. It's hard for us to get that we are going to have to give up ourselves during this COVID-19 deal in order for others to live and for our communities to make it. We can look around and see how hard these decisions are. If we look around, you and I look around these days, do we shut down our economy? Would be one question. Do we open up our economy? And then when do we do that? Do we require masks for people, or do we simply encourage them to wear those masks? Do we ask our elderly people to sacrifice their lives and possibly die of the virus so their grandchildren can have a future? Do we open schools, this is a current one, do we open schools and possibly put children, teachers, parents, and grandparents and others at risk of the virus? In a country like ours, these are hard questions. Our economy is based on all of these systems functioning, businesses opening, restaurants opening, our schools even functioning, everything, all of these pieces, our systems depend on them to function. Our political and economic and social fabric depends on people being able to make their own decisions about work, the purchase of goods, their personal health, the care of their families and their children. All of this has come to define life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Oh, and another thing, if you're in debt, you pay it back plus interest. That's a big deal here. If you're in debt, you pay it back plus interest. Now that's whether it's student loan debt, which us and our family, my husband and myself, whether it's a student loan debt, a loan for a car, or a mortgage, or any other kind of loan or debt. If anyone or the system does anything for you, you pay back that plus some. Now that could even be Miss Lucy next door, who loves to bake cookies for you, but wants you to shovel her driveway with the snow when it snows. Or Mrs. O'Dale down the street, who, when you bake cookies for her, feels like that she needs to bring you a casserole whenever you do that. When we do people favors in our society, sometimes we feel like that we're in debt to people and that we must return or repay that debt. It's just something about our culture here in the United States, probably in other places as well. But our culture, our economy is set up in that way that debt means that it needs to be repaid plus interest. Now, this is not in our scripture passage today. This is not what Paul is talking about here in Romans 8. He starts right off the bat saying that we are debtors. But says and makes a point that we are debtors to God, but not to the flesh. And if we live according to the flesh, we will die. But if we are living by the Spirit, then we are called children of God. So it's a different kind of debt. We would say that the kind of debt that we live in and to here in the United States probably is more close to that debt to the flesh rather than by the Spirit. And again, Paul is saying if we are living by the Spirit, then we're called children of God. And we are received as by the Spirit, we are received by a spirit of adoption. In fact, we are adopted by God, and then we can cry, Abba, Father. That Abba is a term for God that's almost like daddy. We become so close to God that we can cry daddy to God. It's informal. It's personal. And with that, we come together as adopted folks together with each other in a community where we're in this with each other. That's where we start to call all of this. We've talked about this before. We start to call it a kingdom, where we're related to each other, like we're related, we are kin with each other. It becomes a kingdom. And with this community, we're not really looking out for ourselves as we're adopted with one another into God's kingdom. We're not looking out for ourselves so much. We're not owing each other debts that must be repaid with interest. In fact, this debt is a debt of God's grace. It's forgiven. What we are forgiven is what all of us are forgiven by God. All of that brokenness, all of that hurt and harms that we've done to each other has been done to us. It's taken to the cross and healed. It is a claim by the Spirit, yes, Christ. We live in the Spirit. We are all children adopted by God and in that community. Maybe that makes it a little easier to wear our masks. At the end of the scripture passage, Paul writes that in hope we were saved. And then he says that this is a hope that is that hope that is seen is not hope. So if there's something there that we can see and we're striving for it, like we're racing toward the finish line in a race, and we're hoping for that, but that's not really hope. For who, any questions, has the question, for who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Basically, if we can't see it and we hope for it, then we will wait for it with patience. Now, I must confess to you, at times I have a hard time in the hope department. I really want to see what I'm hoping for. And because of that, I'm a lot like that man in the lobby of the Brown Palace. I can be afraid, I can be impatient, I can be angry, I can be self-centered and selfish. Hoping for things that we can't see is hard. But that is the heart of everything worth hoping for. With this COVID virus, we have no idea what the future holds. We can't see what we're hoping for, but we know we are putting our hope in the Spirit of God. Through that, we are children of God, siblings one of each other. We are in this with God, with the Spirit of God, with Christ, and we are in this with each other. That we can hope in, that we can live in, for each other, with each other, living for each other. And we'll see.